Gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Guess why? Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. Once he gets to those championship rounds, even now, say Cyril Gane pushes him 25 minutes. If he beats Cyril Gane, but he learns to go 25 minutes where that first time you feel that, yo, Tom hasn't gotten off the stool for a third round.
We saw that Francis Ngannou, Stipe.
Exactly. Francis, when he fought Stipe and he went to try to knock him out, by the middle of the fight, Francis looking like he saw a ghost. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience,
where he's
especially as Jon Jones.
People don't understand how effective,
It's exhausting.
exhausting that is when you come to thump.
You want to fight, but I'm just grabbing you.
So I'm not ducking Tom Aspinall. If I failed to fight Stipe, I would be ducking Stipe because we contractually have been signed up to fight over a year ago. This is Stipe's position. The Tom narrative came out of nowhere. He won a belt, and now suddenly I'm ducking him. I've never had negotiations to even fight him, if this makes sense. So the fans are just ignoring it. They're ignoring all logic, and they just have finally found someone that they think can compete with me, and everyone wants to see it now.
Daniel Cormier has just sent a clear warning message to Tom Aspinall about Jon Jones. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every word of this breakdown. We're also diving into Jones's surprising announcement about re-entering the testing pool and what this could mean for a potential White House fight. So buckle up, because this story has more twists than a Jon Jones spinning elbow. Let's get into it. All right, let's cut straight to the chase. Daniel Cormier just dropped a bombshell on his Pound for Pound podcast, and it's not what you'd expect from someone who's been pushing for Jon Jones to fight Tom Aspinall.
What do you think about DC saying he would have already fought Tom?
Should I move the car?
I don't think much about it, but I really do want to fight Tom Aspinall. I just want to meet him here at Dirty Boxing.
So he has to come to a dirty boxing event for him to get the fight.
No, we'll fight here at Dirty Boxing.
You'll fight at dirty boxing. I like that. All right, John.
Despite being one of the loudest voices calling for Jones to stop ducking Aspinall, Cormier just admitted something that might shock you. He actually believes Jones would have beaten the interim champion. Here's the exact quote that's got everyone talking. Gun to my head, I would have said Jon beats Aspinall right now.
Since the fight will never happen, gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. I would have said he'll probably beat him right now. Because guess why? Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. But if Tom gets to those once he gets to those championship rounds, even now, say Cyril Gane pushes him 25 minutes. And if he beats Cyril Gane, but he learns to go 25 minutes where that first time you feel that, I got to get up off that stool after the third round. Yo, Tom hasn't gotten off the stool for a third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon Jones.
Now this is huge coming from DC, a man who has every reason to root against Jon Jones. But Cormier isn't letting personal feelings cloud his analysis, and his reasoning is absolutely fascinating. The key point, championship rounds. Cormier believes Aspinall's biggest weakness is his lack of experience in those grueling championship rounds, rounds 4 and 5 that separate the good from the great.
The feeling that I will miss the most, and it's one of the scariest feelings, is being sat in that arena and you're getting your hands wrapped and you can hear the roar of the crowd like it's shaking the walls and you are scared to get in there. And you know that somewhere else in that arena, there's another guy in here. There's somebody else getting their hands wrapped as well, going through the same thing as me. And we don't know each other. And you guys are just going to meet in the middle in front of millions of people and just fight. And one of us is probably going to be separated from our consciousness. That's what I look forward to. What replaces 25,000 people screaming in it?
Think about it. Tom Aspinall has never been pushed past the second round in his UFC career. He's a finishing machine, absolutely devastating in the first 2 rounds. But what happens when he can't get the finish? What happens when he has to dig deep and find that championship heart? Cormier painted a vivid picture. That first time you feel that gasp for air. I've got to get up off that stool after the 3rd round. Tom hasn't got off the stool for a 3rd round.
Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. But if Tom gets to those once he gets to those championship rounds, even now, say Cyril Gane pushes him 25 minutes. And if he beats Cyril Gane, but he learns to go 25 minutes where that first time you feel that, I got to get up off that stool after the 3rd round. Yo, Tom hasn't gotten off the stool for a 3rd round.
When we saw that Francis Ngannou, Stipe.
Exactly. That's the comp. Francis, when he fought Stipe and he went to try to knock him out, by the middle of the fight, Francis looking like he saw a ghost. Francis breathing out of his mouth and nose. How you breathe out of your mouth and nose at the same time? Francis doesn't manage to create a whole different way of breathing. And I love Francis.
Hey, don't talk about my brother like that.
Come on. We talked about it. He laughed at it himself. Francis breathing out of his nose and mouth at the same time. It's like, shit, I'm exhausted.
This is experience you simply cannot replicate in training, folks. And DC used Francis Ngannou as a perfect example. Remember when Francis fought Stipe Miocic the first time? By the middle of the fight, Ngannou was breathing heavy, looking lost. That's what championship pressure does to even the most devastating fighters. But here's where Cormier's analysis gets really interesting. He emphasized that this window was crucial. Jones needed to fight Aspinall now, before Tom gains that championship experience.
He knows they exist. We'll win him. He knows they exist. That's good. That's progress. That's progress. I'll see him soon.
The implication is clear. If Aspinall goes through a 5-round war with someone like Cyril Gane, if he learns to navigate those championship waters, he becomes a much more dangerous opponent for Jones. This brings us to a fascinating tactical question. Was Jones actually being smart by retiring when he did? Did he recognize that his window of advantage was closing? Jon Jones has always been a master strategist. He's fought the who's who of multiple divisions, and he knows how to game plan better than almost anyone. If even Daniel Cormier, his biggest critic, believes Jones would have won, that tells you something about the respect Jones commands as a fighter.
To this day, he gave Jon Jones some serious fucking trouble. And Jon destroyed his legs. He needed double knee surgery after that fight.
What was going through your mind when you did that jumping side kick? Looked like you were aiming for Thiago Santos's knee.
Thiago was trying to break my jaw tonight. And if a guy can give you a stutter for the rest of your life, I think an even trade-off is to give him a lump for the rest of his life. That's just the game we play.
But here's the kicker. Jones might not be done after all. And that leads us to our next segment about a potential comeback that nobody saw coming. Just when we thought the Jon Jones story was over, Bones himself drops a bombshell on social media that has the entire MMA world buzzing. After initially retiring following his victory over Stipe Miocic, Jones posted on X, just re-entered the testing pool. That lasted about 2 weeks. Figured we'd keep everyone's options open.
Jon Jones has returned to the testing pool, and he has stated, and I quote, to keep everybody's options open. Now, what do you do with Jon? See, there's no denying his greatness, and there's no making believe that in the last 13 days he got worse. He was ranked number 2 on the pound-for-pound list. He now going back into the pool unretires himself from a legal standpoint. So when the rankings come out next...
2 weeks! The man retired for 2 weeks before getting back into the USADA testing pool. This is absolutely unprecedented, and it opens up a world of possibilities. But what triggered this sudden change of heart? The answer might surprise you. President Donald Trump's announced UFC White House event for July 4th celebrations. Jones himself showed interest, posting, "Fighting at the White House?" with eyes emojis. Can you imagine? The former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion potentially competing on the White House lawn as part of America's 250th anniversary celebration. This is where the story gets even more incredible. Daniel Cormier, the man who has spent years criticizing Jones, just admitted he would actually cheer for his arch nemesis if he fought at the White House. If we've got to send one American fighter out to the White House to get a dub, man, send Jon Jones out there. I would cheer so hard for him.
Jones is going to be the savior.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Hell.
I've never wanted to cheer for Jon Jones
Oh
more
my
in
God, I
my
would
life.
cheer
You
so
have
hard for
blown
him.
my mind, Daniel Cormier.
Hell, I would cheer so hard for him on the White House if we need. Take this. I know you guys always say I'm hard on Jones. If we got to send one American fighter out to the White House to get a dub, man, send Jon Jones out there. Man,
From bitter enemies to potential allies, only in MMA, folks. So what does all this mean for the heavyweight division and MMA as a whole? First, Tom Aspinall now has a clear roadmap for success. He needs to prove he can go 5 hard rounds. Whether that's against Cyril Gane, Curtis Blades, or any other top contender, Aspinall needs to show he has that championship conditioning and mental fortitude.
Well, Jon Jones, the greatest fighter of all time, potentially, possibly, the guy that retired recently, about 2 weeks ago, because he didn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, because he'd been there, done it, he's living his best life, he's got nothing more to prove, he walked away from the sport, essentially undefeated. He has been retired for 2 weeks, maybe less than that. That gets a bit blurry depending on what the timeline is. But according to Twitter, apparently, according to Twitter, his Twitter, not general hearsay, Jon Jones has unretired. That is correct. He says that he is now back in the testing pool. Check this out. So, of course, the UFC shares this, and this is very nice of the UFC. Jon Bones Jones, the greatest of all time. And he just might be. We'll get to that after. There's others. Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, Habib Nurmagomedov. The list goes on.
Second, Jon Jones' return to the testing pool changes everything. If he's serious about the White House fight, we could see him face anyone from Aspinall to other top heavyweights. The testing pool requirement means he's at least keeping his options open for a potential 2025 return. But here's what's really fascinating. Cormier's honest assessment shows us that even among bitter rivals, there's a deep respect for skill and ability. DC putting aside personal feelings to give an honest breakdown of Jones versus Aspinall shows the maturity and professionalism that makes him such a respected voice in MMA.
Jon Jones don't need Tom Aspinall, but he ain't gonna not just do that. You know that the first time I fought Jon Jones, I was 36 years old.
Yes.
He was in his mid-20s when he fought all these great legends. Now, he'd be on the other side of that coin. Right. This kid's young. Right. He's the older guy. He's been through the wars. The Gustafson fight. Him and I just bashed out of each other for 8 rounds. Reyes fight. Thiago Santos. While he didn't last long with Cyril, he didn't look as fast. He's doing the right thing. He's no selling it. Make him just angry and just don't give him what he wants.
The heavyweight division is more interesting now than it's been in years. You've got Tom Aspinall as the undisputed champion, Jon Jones potentially coming back, and a whole host of contenders ready to make their mark. And let's not forget, if Jones does return for a White House fight, it wouldn't just be about individual glory, it would be about representing America on one of the biggest stages imaginable. That's pressure even Jon Jones has never faced before. What a wild ride this story has been, from Daniel Cormier's surprising admission that Jon Jones would beat Tom Aspinall, to Jones re-entering the testing pool after just 2 weeks of retirement, to the possibility of a White House fight. This has everything you could want in an MMA story.
What's it been like having to answer questions about, he's not your nemesis, he's just someone that you want to beat? Jon Jones, you don't know where you stand. Dana said it's the biggest fight in UFC history now, so all signs point to that, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, I've had enough talking about it, mate. I'm honestly bored of it. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll just see. I'm ready to fight whenever they tell me, so just let me know. I'll be there. The guy I'm fighting next is the most dangerous guy that I'm ever going to have to fight. Look at the top 10 now. I've beaten 6 of them. My goal is to beat 10.
But what is now going to happen in your career going forward in the heavyweight division?
We've got a date. We've got an opponent to work towards.
Yeah.
Everything's good. And I can finally get my career going again.
Tom Aspinall just dropped the bombshell on Jones. I'm done with Jon. My fight is already booked. And now, I just want to fight. I'm not interested in Jon anymore. That's right, folks. While Jon Jones is playing retirement games and coming out of retirement for Twitter attention, Tom Aspinall has completely moved on and is ready to show the world what a real heavyweight champion looks like.
What would it take to fight Tom Aspinall from the UFC? Like, what does the UFC got to do?
Said something real wild on off the cuff. I'll see you guys later.
That's it.
Yeah,
right.
Thanks for the happy
Jon
beer.
Jones, the legend.
Yeah.
Stick around, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you view this entire heavyweight championship saga. But first, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get into this absolute chaos. All right, fight fans, let's set the scene, because this story is more twisted than a pretzel at a UFC after-party. 2 weeks ago, that's right, just 2 weeks, Jon Jones officially retired from the UFC, the greatest of all time, or so he claims. Walked away from the sport essentially undefeated, saying he had nothing more to prove and didn't want to fight Tom Aspinall.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
2 weeks ago, that's right, just 2 weeks, Jon Jones officially retired from the UFC. The greatest of all time, or so he claims. Walked away from the sport essentially undefeated, saying he had nothing more to prove and didn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. Tom Aspinall responded like a true champion, saying he genuinely wished Jones all the best and that he just wanted to fight. The man has been sitting on the sidelines for nearly a year, folks. His main job is fighting people, and he hasn't been able to do that because of all this drama. But here's where it gets absolutely insane.
The second that I won the interim title, I think that a lot of people looked at me a little bit different to a regular interim champion, in my opinion.
You should have been the undisputed champion that night.
Yeah, that's what I think. Just because of the politics around it and the way that, things happen. But for me, I was always champion anyway, interim or not, in my opinion.
President Trump announces he wants to host a UFC event at the White House with 25,000 people, and suddenly, Jon Jones is back in the testing pool. 37 minutes after Trump's announcement, Jones tweets, "Just re-entered the testing pool, figured we'd keep everyone's options open." Oh, so now he wants to fight? When there's a flashy venue and cameras at the White House? Come on, Jon. Now here's where Tom Aspinall shows why he's not just a champion in the Octagon, but a champion of calling out absolute nonsense. In a recent interview that's going viral, Aspinall was brutally honest about what he really thinks of this whole situation, and folks, he did not hold back. When asked about his feelings toward Jones, Aspinall said, "I just wish him all the best, genuinely wish him all the best. If he feels satisfied with what he's done, which he's saying he is, and he's happy to leave like that, then I genuinely wish him all the best." But here's the kicker. When pressed about whether Jones is really done, Aspinall dropped this truth bomb. "I don't know him. Don't know him at all. Met him once. Don't know anything about him. So I don't know. I don't care about your retirement games, Jon. I've got my own career to worry about."
And that he's going to retire and that he's not living like an athlete who's fighting at the top level anymore, and that he's not interested and he's not in the gym and etc. But I knew that there was going to be a decision made by the UFC coming soon. There's no way on earth that he's going to fight me. Not a chance. I will retire Jon Jones without even fighting him.
Jon Jones called us last night and retired. Jon Jones is officially retired. Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion of the UFC.
And then came the most devastating part. Aspinall revealed that this past year of waiting has been more difficult than when he was injured and out for a year with his knee. Think about that for a second. An injury that you can control and work back from was easier than dealing with Jon Jones's mind games and indecision. But wait, it gets even better. Here's the bombshell that's got the entire MMA world talking.
I showed up to this place thinking, yeah, we're gonna do some stuff. I got a few stuff prepared. I was planning on going to the press conference and all that stuff, but
So you couldn't go even as a spectator? Is what you're saying?
Nope. They banned me.
You to go as a spectator, come through the crowd like Jay Uso in the
Walk up to the mic.
Walk up to the mic. Hey, it's Tom Aspinall. Can I get a shot? That would have been the best. I can't believe
that was the plan. That was the plan.
I can't believe they missed that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Tom Aspinall just revealed in his latest interview that he's done with the Jon Jones drama. He's moved on, and he's already got his next fight booked. That's right, folks. While Jones is playing retirement hopscotch, Tom Aspinall is out here being a real champion. He told reporters, "I now have a fight, which I can't announce, unfortunately, but at least we've got a date, we've got an opponent to work towards, and I can finally get my career going again."
As you know, just come back from Vegas. Meetings have been done, and I now have a fight, which I can't announce, unfortunately. That's not my job. But at least we've got a date, we've got an opponent to work towards.
Yeah.
Everything's good. Very happy with that. And I can finally get my career going again.
When you process...
This man is so done with waiting around for Jones that he's ready to defend his title against 4 different opponents in the next 12 months. He's already beaten 6 of the top 10 heavyweights, and his goal is simple: beat all 10 of them. We're talking about potential fights with Cyril Ganje, Jailton Almeida, Derek Lewis, and Jahanta Diniz. These are real fights against real contenders, not some publicity stunt at the White House.
Did you have any idea what you're doing next and when you'll be back in the Octagon?
I do, but I also want to keep my job. So there's not much I can say on it, to be honest. But
Will you be fighting this year?
I'm going to be fighting hopefully twice this year. That's my plan.
Oh, wow.
At least I think I've wasted enough time. We're looking for a quick. We're looking to get a fight booked quick, and it's looking like it's going to be pretty soon anyway. And then hopefully, if everything goes well in the first one, I'm uninjured, which is, it's easier said than done, getting through a fight.
And here's what makes this even more incredible. Aspinall says he doesn't even feel like he's in his prime yet. At 32 years old, he believes his prime is still coming in his mid-30s. Now let's talk about what this really means for the heavyweight division, because Tom Aspinall just exposed the UFC's biggest problem. Aspinall was brutally honest about the current state of the heavyweight division, saying, "The heavyweight division is not exactly on fire."
Yeah, I mean, it's not all been bad because, to be honest, I don't feel like I'm in my prime yet. I still feel like I've got some more work to do before I get there. And I'm getting older and developing more as a fighter and as a person. So I still feel like I'll prime like mid-30s, to be honest. I'm still just 32. But I would have liked to have been active, but also I've been getting better in the time that I've been off. As I said, I was doing my job, which is listen to the UFC and be ready to fight and be ready to go whenever they say. So that means that the whole year I've been training, I've been locked in, I've been doing what I was supposed to.
He's absolutely right. The talent pool is shallow, the division lacks star power compared to 5 years ago when we had legends like Fabricio Verdum, Cain Velasquez, Junior Dos Santos, Mark Hunt, Alistair Overeem, and Brock Lesnar. But here's what makes Tom Aspinall special. Instead of complaining about it, he's doing something about it. He's promising to be an active champion who actually defends his title regularly. On Instagram, he posted, "For you fans, it's time to get this heavyweight division going. An active, undisputed champion. This is what real championship mentality looks like." While Jones is worried about venues and publicity, Aspinall is focused on being the champion the heavyweight division deserves. The man has finished opponents in the first round consistently. Curtis Blades in 1 minute, Sergey Pavlovich in 69 seconds, Marcin Tybura in 1 minute 13 seconds.
Right, everyone, the news has broken. I'm sure everybody's seen it. UFC undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Moving forward, very, very important to me, just that I acknowledge everybody quickly who has supported me in this. I'm not going to say it was a tough time, but a bit of a challenging time over like the last kind of 10, 11 months that I have been inactive due to no fault of my own. But luckily, that is all behind us now. Massively appreciate the support from everybody. Massively appreciate the support going forward. I am going to keep this thing as active as possible. I want to be the best heavyweight ever to walk the face of the earth. I'm going to defend this thing as many times as I possibly can. I'm going to keep you guys entertained now. I'm going to really give back to everybody who has shown me support over the last year, over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years. Really appreciate the support and love from everybody. And we're going to see an active, defending UFC heavyweight undisputed champion going forward. Thank you guys, and I'll speak to you soon.
Fight fans, what we're witnessing right now is the changing of the guard in the heavyweight division. Jon Jones may have the legacy, but Tom Aspinall has the future. And frankly, after this whole retirement circus, I think most fans are ready to move on from the Jones era. Tom Aspinall isn't just the heavyweight champion, he's the champion the division needs right now. Someone who shows up, fights regularly, and doesn't play games with the fans' emotions.
I couldn't find any sparring partners. I started going down the boxing gym to spar with Tyson Fury and some other fighters down there. And they just kept seeing me book fights, the fight would get cancelled, and then I'd be back to square one. It would go like that for a bit. So then it was a little bit like, well, why don't you just box? So I was like, they've got a point. Like
there's plenty of heavyweight boxers.
Yeah. I'm just gonna box for a little bit. So anyway, long story short, I did that for a couple of years. That didn't work out like I thought it was gonna. That's corrupt as hell in this country.
My prediction: Jones will keep teasing comebacks for attention, but Aspinall will be too busy being a real champion to care. He's got 4 fights planned, a division to revitalize, and a legacy to build. What do you think, fight fans? Are you Team Aspinall, or do you still want to see Jones come back? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the breakdown, subscribe for more MMA news and analysis, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest content. And trust me, with Tom Aspinall as champion, the heavyweight division is about to get a lot more exciting. We'll be covering every single fight, so make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, keep training hard and stay tuned for more breaking MMA news.
John quit.
John
quit. Is that right?
his-
Call it what it is. John quit.
How do you say that? The word choice. Why is that the word
Bro, I
choice?
said this on my YouTube channel
John
the other
retired.
day. When Jon Jones and I were fighting, he says, I will see in the Octagon a 38-year-old man while I'm just entering into my prime. Those words are now the exact same words that can be spoken to him on the other side. When the words were related to him, he said, I'm out. I'm not doing it. That's why I said he quit.
He also knows his body, so is it a smart move?
He could have said that a long time ago, because you know know why he didn't?
Those decisions are hard.
But you want to know why he didn't? He's trying to convince himself that he still could put in the work necessary to go beat this dude. Jon Jones and Stipe fought when there was an interim champion. He fights a dude that hasn't fought for 3 years. If he'd have walked away, we said, what an ending for your last fight. But instead he waited, and that's where the mistake was. If I was Jon Jones, as scary as this was to fight Tom Aspinall, I would have fought him already.
Daniel Cormier has just dropped the most explosive statement about his longtime rival Jon Jones, and it's got everyone talking. DC claims Jones didn't retire, he quit. But here's the kicker. Jones might be coming back, and Cormier has some shocking predictions about what would happen if Bones faces Tom Aspinall.
Event. The UFC is coming to the White House. Now, I saw this. I was like, oh my God, this is insane.
We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little. We're not. Dana's going to do it.
Of course, there's a lot of people out there that are talking shit. The leftist media, they're all out there going, oh my God, this is crazy. They've gone full idiocracy. Look, listen, it's a bit of fun. It's a great sport. Donald Trump loves it, and he's loved the UFC for years. And I'll tell you what, if they put on a UFC event at the White House, I want to be there. If I was competing, I would have loved to compete at the White House. I'm very lucky I fought all over the world on almost every single continent. To fight at the White House, that would be unbelievable. So I'm going to take you through a dream card, because some fighters have already been putting their hand up and volunteering their services. But as we know, Donald Trump and Dana White, they have a very close friendship.
Dana White, who has done some job.
Back in the early days, when the UFC was kind of struggling.
And it gets even crazier. After President Trump's historic announcement about UFC fights at the White House, Jon Jones has suddenly re-entered the testing pool. Plus, Michael Bisping just revealed his dream UFC White House fight card featuring both Conor McGregor and Jon Jones making their explosive returns. Stay tuned, because this story has more twists than a championship fight, and you won't want to miss a single detail.
As far as my future in the Octagon, I decided that maybe I will not retire, and that I have some conversations to have with Dana and Hunter, and we have some negotiating to do. And if everything goes right, maybe we'll give you guys what you want to see.
And what would that be? Is that heavyweight, or is that Alex Pereira at heavyweight? What is that? What are you thinking?
I know that we have options. And so I'm just going to see what Uncle Dana wants, and what Uncle Hunter wants. And you guys will hear about it soon, I'm sure.
All right, fight fans, let's dive straight into this bombshell. When Jon Jones announced his retirement after his victory over Stipe Miocic, most of us thought we were witnessing the end of an era. But Daniel Cormier, the man who knows Jones better than anyone after their legendary rivalry, has a completely different take. On the Pound 14 podcast, DC didn't hold back. He said, and I quote, "Jon quit. It's true, call it what it is, Jon quit." But here's where it gets really interesting. Cormier dropped some serious knowledge about Jones' mindset. He reminded everyone about something Jones said during their own rivalry: "I will see in the Octagon a 38-year-old man, while I'm just entering into my prime."
Jon quit.
Jon quit. Is that right?
Call it what it is. Jon quit.
How do you say that? The word choice? Why is that the word choice?
Bro, I said this on my YouTube channel.
Jon retired.
When Jon Jones and I were fighting, he says, "I will see in the Octagon a 38-year-old man while I'm just entering into my prime." Those words are now the exact same words that can be spoken to him on the other side. When the words were related to him, he said, "I'm out. I'm not doing it." That's why I said he quit.
He also knows his body, so is it a smart move?
You could have said that a long time ago, because you know why he didn't?
Those decisions are hard.
But you want to know why he didn't? He's trying to convince himself that he still could put in the work necessary to go beat this dude. Jon Jones and Stipe fought when there was an interim champion. He fights a dude that hasn't fought for 3 years. If he'd have walked away, we said, what an ending for your last fight. But instead he waited, and that's where the mistake was. If I was Jon Jones, as scary as this was to fight Tom Aspinall, I would have fought him already.
DC threw those exact words right back at Jones, pointing out that when the shoe was on the other foot, when Jones became the older fighter facing a younger, hungrier opponent in Tom Aspinall, suddenly he was out and not doing it. This isn't just trash talk, folks. This is psychological warfare from someone who's been inside Jones's head before. Now, you might be thinking, wait, isn't retirement normal for fighters? But DC breaks down exactly why he believes this was quitting, not retiring.
John quit.
John quit. Is that right?
Call it what it is. John quit.
Why is that the word choice? Why is that the word
Bro, I
choice?
said this on my YouTube channel
John
the other day.
retired.
When Jon Jones and I were fighting, he says, I will see in the Octagon a 38-year-old man while I'm just entering into my prime. Those words are now the exact same words that can be spoken to him on the other side. When the words were related to him, he said, I'm out. I'm not doing it. That's why I said he quit.
He also knows his body, so is it a smart move?
He could have said that a long time ago, because you know why he didn't?
Those decisions are hard.
But you want to know why he didn't? He's trying to convince himself that he still could put in the work necessary to go beat this dude. Jon Jones and Stipe fought when there was an interim champion. He fights a dude that hasn't fought for 3 years. If he'd have walked away, we said, what an ending for your last fight. But instead, he waited, and that's where the mistake was. If I was Jon Jones, as scary as this was to fight Tom Aspinall, I would have fought him already.
Cormier explained that Jones could have retired a long time ago, but he didn't. Why? Because, according to DC, he was trying to convince himself that he still could put in the work necessary to go beat this dude. Here's the brutal truth DC laid out. Jones and Stipe fought when there was already an interim champion waiting, Tom Aspinall. Jones chose to fight a guy who hadn't competed for 3 years instead of the young, dangerous interim champ. DC said if Jones had walked away after the Stipe fight, everyone would have said, what an ending. But instead, Jones waited, and that's where the mistake was made. The most savage part? Cormier said, if I was Jon Jones, as scary as this was to fight Tom Aspinall, I would have fought him already. That's coming from a guy who never backed down from anyone, including Jones himself. But here's where this story takes an unexpected turn. Despite calling Jones a quitter, Daniel Cormier still believes Bones would have beaten Tom Aspinall if they fought. When pressed for a prediction, DC said, gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. Tom was never pushed into those championship rounds. Cormier's reasoning is fascinating. He pointed out that Aspinall has never experienced those grueling championship rounds, that moment when you gotta get up off that stool after that third round. DC emphasized, Tom hasn't gotten off the stool for a third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience.
Since the fight will never happen, gun to my head, I would have said Jon Jones will beat him right now. I would have said, he'll probably beat him right now. Because guess why? Tom has never been pushed into those championship rounds. But if Tom gets to those once he gets to those championship rounds, even now, say Cyril Gane pushes him 25 minutes. And if he beats Cyril Gane, but he learns to go 25 minutes where that first time you feel that, I got to get up off that stool after the third round. Yo, Tom hasn't gotten off the stool for a third round. You needed to fight Tom now when he doesn't have that experience, especially as Jon Jones.
This is a masterclass in fight analysis, folks. Even Jones's biggest rival acknowledges his championship experience and ability to find a way to win when it matters most. Just when we thought this story couldn't get crazier, President Donald Trump dropped his own bombshell during a rally in Iowa. Trump announced plans for a UFC fight on the White House lawn as part of the 2026 July 4th celebration. Trump said, we're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there.
President Trump loves UFC, and now he's proposing to host a fight night at the White House as part of America's 250th anniversary countdown. The president made that announcement while kicking off celebrations in Iowa yesterday. Listen to this.
We're going to have a UFC fight. Think of this on the grounds of the White House. We have a lot of land there. We're going to build a little... We're not. Dana's going to do it. Dana's great, one of a kind. Going to have a UFC fight, championship fight.
And guess what happened next? Jon Jones immediately responded on X with fighting at the White House, followed by the eyes emoji. But here's the kicker. Jones then posted, just re-entered the testing pool. That lasted for about 2 weeks. Figured we'd keep everyone's options open. Wait, what? The man who supposedly quit is now back in the testing pool? This is exactly what Daniel Cormier was talking about. Michael Bisping has already suggested the perfect matchup for this historic event, Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. He called it potentially the greatest heavyweight fight of all time and painted the picture. England versus USA all over again, 1776. Eat your heart out.
And if there's one fight, and if there's one location that Jon Jones would come out of retirement for, we might just get to see the greatest heavyweight fight of all time. If Tom only just scrapes by Cyril Gane. I think Jones would come out of retirement, and that would be the main event at the White House. Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall, England versus USA, all over again, okay? 1776, eat your goddamn hearts out, etc.
So what does all this mean for the future of the heavyweight division? First, Daniel Cormier has been proven right once again. He called Jones a quitter, and now Jones is showing interest in coming back for the right opportunity. That's not the behavior of someone who is truly ready to retire. Second, Tom Aspinall remains in this weird limbo. He's the interim champion, but the real belt holder might be coming back. The division that should have moved on is now potentially stalled again. Third, we might actually get the super fight we've all been waiting for. Jones vs. Aspinall at the White House would be the most historic UFC event ever. Imagine the storylines. The American GOAT versus the British powerhouse on the most American stage possible. But here's Cormier's warning to Jones. Time isn't on your side. Every day that passes is another day Aspinall gets better. More experienced and more dangerous. What do you think, fight fans? Was Daniel Cormier right to call Jon Jones a quitter? And would Jones actually beat Tom Aspinall if they fought at the White House? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Are you Team Jones or Team Aspinall?